Hello, welcome to Mark's Maximo. My name is Mark Lefwich and I'm a senior engineer in IBM. Today I'm going to take you through a quick example of how you can check your user authentication within the pod logs. Now, this can be useful for a few reasons. One, if you have a user failing authentication, I can show you how to see the reasoning behind that. Also, this can help with audits. So if you want to see the last time a certain user logged in or how many users have logged in a certain day, you can use this log to extract that information. So the first step is to open up and log into your OpenShift Container Platform GUI. So we want to look at the pod logs, specifically the core IDP logs, as this is where the user information is captured. To do that, we're going to go on the left-hand side to workloads, then pods. Then we're going to come across to the search bar here and we're going to type in core IDP. Now, for those that have got keen eyes, you'll notice here I've got multiple instances of MAS on this same cluster. So you want to ensure if you're also running multiple clusters, you pick the right instance. So in this case, I'm going to be looking at the Mark MAS inst 1 and I'm going to be looking at the core IDP pod. So the pod you are looking for is your instance name dash core IDP, and then this number will be different every time the pod generates. Click on the pod itself. Once within the pod, you want to go over to logs. Once the logs loads, we can start scrolling through and I'll show you some examples. Now you'll see here resume stream. This is a live system, so it's obviously going to keep updating this log. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a failed attempt, and then I'm also going to show you a successful attempt so you can see the difference. So I've just scrolled down quickly through the logs to find what I'm looking for. Now there's a couple of bits of information you can pull out here quite quickly. The first is the attempted user ID's login name or ID. If you're looking at this not knowing who's tried to log in, you can see which users have logged in and failed or succeeded. Or you can try and hunt for a specific username within the log. It depends on your use case. The second thing to note here is you can see the time the user attempted the login. This can be useful for things like auditing. I know some people out there like to see when's the last time a certain user logged in. You can do it from this log. The authentication type used. Now, I'm using local in this environment. I'll show you that in detail in a second. And the last thing is obviously, was the attempt successful or not? So line 202 down, as you can see here. I'll scroll that to the top so you can see it. And we'll put it across to make it a little bit easier to read. So I'm using the user Mark L. It's my user I use for testing. You can see here the user Mark L has attempted to authenticate. The type is local authentication, so you may have other types of authentication in your environments. You can then see that it's going through doing the tests, and you can see it's failed on the local because that's the only one I have in this environment, so it's failed the user outright. Now, the interesting bit of information that may help some of you out here is why. Just below this, you will see longer lines and exception codes, and you can see here password check failed for user Mark L. So very quickly I can see the reason I can't log in is because my password is incorrect compared to what the system thinks it is. So for those of you out there that administer MAS, it might be you can start the reset password process and that will fix the issue. But again, here's a really good place to check of why. Now that's a failed attempt. I'll also show you a successful attempt in case you're looking for those within the log. Okay, I've scrolled down and this is a successful attempt for the same user. So here again, looking at Mark L, it's attempting to authenticate the user, and that's the ID you'd be checking. Then you come down a little bit, you can see again it's using the local authentication type. This time it says it succeeded through the local authentication type and that the user overall succeeded to log in. Once you've seen this, you'll normally get a line or two underneath that it says it's attempting authorization to a specific application, and that's the application ID. In my case, it happened to be MAS core. It could be something different for you. So this is a really simple way that you can A, troubleshoot users if you're having a problem with it, or B, if you need to do some auditing. This is a great way to pull this log and you can start running either by eye or some scripts through it to pull out what you need. You can click on download. So you can see here, this has pulled it down into my browser locally. It's pulled down the log. This may make it a little bit easier for you to work with. I've showed you the example within OCP, but again, if you're doing some auditing or something like that, it might be easier to download and run some basic search or maybe some syntax against it. I hope you found that helpful and thank you very much for watching.